we don't want to just accept status quo. So many times people in our industry, they just create what somebody else has done and they just tweak that thing. There's so much innovation that goes in the space that most people, unless you're really paying attention, it's gonna miss most of you.
Welcome back to Whiskey and Windage, the two-way podcast for the people, by the people. I'm your host, Mike, joined by my co-hosts, Adam and Matt. Boys, how we doing tonight?
Oh, Mike, doing great. Excited for this podcast. This is a company that I've watched for like the last year and a half, some on movies, some on the Gundies last year, but their name has been everywhere, so super excited for this week.
Matt, what about you, bro?
Freaking stoked, dude. Anytime that we get to sit down with a great American-made firearms manufacturer, I'm excited. And a great heavy hitter out of my home state of Idaho. So I'm freaking stoked. Without further ado, I've got Cody from Genesis Arms. Welcome to the show, Cody.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Really appreciate you guys reaching out and making this an opportunity for us to get out and meet your base and get to spread the great gospel of Genesis Arms.
Amen. Heck yeah, man.
You're already coming out swinging. I love it.
America's shotgun. It wasn't just a tagline. It is America's shotgun. We're the future.
Hell yeah.
Love that.
Well, Cody, I'm sure everybody's heard of Genesis. I guess there might be a few stragglers out there who haven't seen it in the movies or seen it somewhere in social media and gun content. But tell the people about who is Genesis Arms and what do you guys do?
Yeah, that'd be great. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people didn't know what Genesis Arms is. We are a relatively new company. We really made a splash with the release of our shotgun being featured in John Wick 4. But ultimately, when you think shotguns, everybody knows the legacy systems that are out there. Remington, they're gone now, but we got Mossberg still pumping out pump shotguns, some decent semi-autos. Same thing with Beretta and Benelli, But I call those legacy systems because they're all tube-fed guns, and you got to be a master at your craft to run those things professionally and efficiently. And Genesis Arms really saw a void in the market space, which was regarding a magazine-fed shotgun. And everything that existed in that space was Turkish or Russian or a variation of those two things. So, the Sega, the Vepers, after the Obama season, came and went, we no longer get those in our country, which is a bummer, right? Like, hey, listen, I'm a big fan of those as well. But they also had hurdles. They had, shortcomings. Required a lot of maintenance, to get those things to run. Well, I was an officer for 9 years. And when I went to SWAT basic school in Washington State, they had the Sega little breachers. They're little shorties, no stock, just little tiny guys. And he was wanting to give them away. And I was like, why? I was like, how awesome would that be to be a mag-fed shotgun? He's like, if they work, they're great, but they mostly don't work. It's literally what he said. And that's a huge bummer, right? Well, those shotguns specifically operated better with longer barrels, giving them better dwell time, the piston system, all those things. So getting them real short for breachers, it looked cool, but it wasn't the most practical execution. And then you have, tube-fed shotguns, like the old Remington MCS, which was federally adopted and taken over for the breachers. And in fact, I think most of our military still uses that today, but it's 3 rounds. It's a little breacher. It's 3 rounds. So, where that becomes a hurdle is, 3 rounds don't always cut it on a door. So, to get that form and function of size and weight for a breacher, you end up cutting that thing down, and now it's just this little guy. Well, I was on a demo at LAPD earlier this year, demoing our gun, just getting spreading the word, letting everybody know where we're at and what we're doing. And I showed it to my contact, and he literally told me the story about how he was up on a second-story balcony, on like a little metal balcony. It's him, he's the breacher, and then you got your point guy and the cover guy, and then you got a train of guys like waiting on a ladder. and there's everybody's shoulder to shoulder, no room. So he fires 3 rounds into the door, and it's a failed breach. So he moves out of the way, and he starts loading over the railing. He loads 1, drops 1, loads 2, gets the 3rd one, comes back, breaches the door on the next round. Door opens up, and there's another door. Rolls up to the door, pumps 2 rounds into that door, failed breach, pins up against the wall, loads his magazine back up, goes back to it, breaches the door. So he says that whole story, and then he looks at me, and he's holding our gun, and he goes, if I would have had this, there's no reload. Not one time. Man. So, and we've had our weapon system, our breacher specifically, has been adopted under federal contract as well. I'll share that. That's this one right here. This is what we call our MBS, our modern breaching shotgun. Yeah, it's this thing it's literally, I call it the Han Solo pistol, so you one-hand it. I just need to get a good scout scope so I can, pistol, you know what I'm saying? So
I want to ask you, because I'm looking at this now, and I've got I need to know more about the mechanics, the how she works.
Yeah.
Looking on the website, looking at everything, you see like, okay, DPMS lowers, they're going to work if you want to build your own, to a point.
Yep.
I also see you've got all the buffer tube and the lower parts kit per se. But looking at that one, it looks like I don't see a buffer tube. Like how?
Yeah, we changed some stuff up.
I was going to say, how does this thing operate? Is it similar to an AR platform with, a buffer tube,
100%.
Gas block, all of that?
Okay.
No gas block. So our low receiver, it operates the same. Once the carrier starts to move, it goes into a buffer spring, and it goes into a buffer tube. So on our little guy, it's a 4-inch buffer tube. We shorten the carrier, add the buffer into the upper receiver, and we run a different spring. So that's how we get that thing broken down. But traditionally, it's a mil-spec stock on the back. It's magazine well is a DPMS pattern. The pattern cut that we refer to as this curve in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, Mike, not every DPMS pattern is the same.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So that became a huge complication early on. We were like, oh, great, we'll sell just uppers, not even be building firearms. Well, that rapidly became a no-go. To make a compatible upper for like this, and we don't even know, like most people don't even know what a Xerox machine is when you make a copy of a copy of a copy, or even, the original, what are those called? The pads where you write and then it gives you the ink side, the ink paper.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, some uppers would work on our lower, some lowers would work on, our upper, different manufacturers. So we just want to sell complete sets. And that way we guarantee form and function. But going back to how does it function and why is ours different? Now, our system has no gas in there. So I don't know, it'll be kind of hard to see, but there is no gas tube. There is no gas block.
Yeah, we can see it perfect.
At all. So what actually is happening is when the wad goes down the barrel and it leaves the muzzle, there's an explosion in that transition. What that does is it operates short recoil. So the barrel begins a rearward motion, and it is not a lot. I mean, that rearward motion is that much. So you can even see the extension there.
Yeah.
And then that is going to build enough velocity to create the full cycle.
Now
pick up
I'm
the
going to
next round.
let me ask a stupid question. How'd you make that move? Did you push back on how did you push the barrel? That's what I was thinking, but I was like, wait a minute. What kind of sorcery is this? What are you doing?
Yeah, so on our 18-inch, which I refer to as our standard line of guns, that the barrel protrudes out of the handguard, as you can see right here. It's got a circular, we call that our barrel true. That gives our barrel a reference point to return to, so it's not just, cattywampus in that hallway. And
carrier bearing.
Yeah, there you go. It's a little bearing surface. Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
So
AK
that works
had
really
something.
good. I mean, the 18-inch is cool, but as you just picked up real fast, if I'm going to use this in breaching and I put this up against the door, I pull this. Now, it's going to go bang, but it's not going to cycle because we robbed everything.
Right. It kind of acts almost similar to a booster on a suppressor for a pistol. It kind of it kind of gives that spring back action. So you're almost acting like a dedicated 22 can dedicated 22 AR platform style in essence, or the conversion where in that the bolt carrier has the spring in it, but in this you're getting that same movement that you need out of the barrel. I mean, that's awesome. And I say this because people kill me in the comments. I've never got my hands on a Genesis shotgun.
Not yet.
I guarantee we'll be changing that.
Yeah. Well, but my thing is this is going to be a reel, and I'm going to edit out the name when we do the reel. But golly, I'm going to say this. I won a raffle, and I won I hate saying this, a Citadel Boss. Okay. So it's an AR style. It has some little thing. It covers the barrel and it twists and makes a sound. And I don't know what it really does, but it's there. But the thing is I shot one whole mag out of it in a mag of 5. And the only time I've only shot it 5 rounds, that's the max I've put through it. I've owned this thing for 2 years. It didn't cycle through the 5 rounds. So there's some magic in what you do, because without giving away the secret sauce, or maybe this just is public knowledge, how do you get that thing to cycle, whether it be, ammo from Walmart, ammo from hand loads, buckshot, bird shot, slug. How do you get that to do it without adjusting knobs and tuning individually?
Yeah, well, Mike, truth be told, I'm not really a shotgun guy. All right. I'm more of a Gen 12 guy.
Ooh.
But when I got into the relationship with Genesis, I was just as a consultant with my SME background, working in law enforcement, military. They didn't have any breacher knowledge. I wasn't a breacher, but I knew some breaching techniques. I had access to breachers. They had, they needed me to talk to the UK Ministry of Defense for a breaching tender, as the federal stuff started happening. They needed someone to have that dialogue and be able to understand what they're requesting out of the company. Our lead engineer and one of the founders of the company, I mean, he's a brilliant man. His name's Theodore Pua. And I mean, the guy, I call him the wizard because he literally makes something new in his mind all the time, and then he creates it in the physical form. And the Gen 12 is no exception to that, And one of the things that the short recoil operation does is it allows us to be self-regulated. So when you start getting into, like, I'm going to assume that the listeners understand direct impingement and piston systems, right?
Correct.
Now, those systems run in different lengths, right? Yep. So you can run, for example, on a 300 blackout, you run it in a pistol gas tube. You don't necessarily need to be running it on a carbine length or mid-length system, because the way that the powder load is, you can run it on that piston length. Well, if you try to run like a 5.56 with a pistol length, like you erode the gas port, your gas tube ain't gonna last.
Fireballs.
Yeah,
I love fireballs.
So there's these parameters. Well, in shot shell, the biggest variation, the biggest variable, the better way to say it is variable, is the ammunition. And as you pointed out, you can go into your junk drawer and pull out pennies and bolts and old screws and load them into a shot shell, and you can shoot that out of a shotgun. That's not a joke. You have flechette rounds, you have tungsten rounds, you have lead rounds. I've seen exploding rounds. You name it, it can come out of a 12 gauge. I mean, look at John Wick 4. We got the Dragon's Breath.
Dragon's Breath. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I watched a video it's almost a year old, but you were out there with Micah, and they were shooting Dragon's Breath. Then they were shooting, I forget the name. It was like some Terminator or something. And then they were shooting something else. Yeah. And it was like this, you specifically said, like, almost you have to develop this with the end user buying ammo from Walmart. Like,
yes,
if you can't get it at Walmart, and if you get it at Walmart and it's not going to shoot, then I don't want to say you necessarily missed the mark, but you may have missed part of the mark.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to place a restriction on people that they have to shoot only high brass ammo, that's a failure as a company in the shot shell space.
Yeah.
The other reason that's a failure is that, when I set out, I have high standards for, the performance of not only myself, but just the gun itself, because having been a professional, even just taking the Second Amendment serious in my own life, carrying every day, being proficient. I love to teach firearms. I don't get to do it as much as I used to. I still work with a company called Veritech Firearms. I would be doing everybody a disservice if I gave you a firearm that I wouldn't depend my life on. So there are gun companies who don't care enough about you, and they understand that the average person in the United States will only shoot 200 rounds on the gun that they own. Okay. And that's fine. But our expectation is that this gun is going to not just outlast you, but your family lineage for as long as you need it. And hopefully it doesn't have to resort to this. But if 1776 ever came back, I hope a Gen 12's on the front line, right? Protecting freedom.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So my point is how are you going to do that when you got a gun that only doesn't even cycle through 5 rounds, but it only costs $200?
Well,
you get what I'm saying? It's a novelty. Yeah. It's not a professional tool. It's not meant to be a family heirloom. It's not meant to go through combat. It's not meant to be, a performance-driven, Porsche. Basically.
I think it's funny you said that. You said family heirloom, and typically what most people would consider a family heirloom probably has some checkering, some walnut wood, a blued finish, probably a little bit of some engraving and all that. And, I don't want to say those are FUD guns because I still appreciate all those, but in this day and age, an MK18, a Genesis 12 gauge, there's a Terran Tactical Sand Viper. Like there's so many things that will eventually be an heirloom.
Yes.
And it's interesting that you say that because too many people, just look at something like what you're making and say, oh man, that's scary looking. And I look at it and I'm like, man, I see inspiration from so many things and it all works. And it's mind boggling to me. I mean, I can't wait. I'm definitely going to find you guys in January, but I can't wait to put my hands on one.
Yeah. I mean, there's some significant things, that drives us to do the things that we do. Excuse me. One of the things is, we don't want to just accept status quo. So many times people in our industry, they just create what somebody else has done and they just tweak that thing. And I'll use the AR-15 as that. I'm actually very thankful for the AR-15 to have so many new improvements and variations and even copies. I mean, it's a testament to the design. It drove the AR-15 to the ultimate pinnacle that it's at. I mean, there's not a lot to change on an AR-15 today because of all the individual innovation from companies, fixing this or doing that, whether it's a superlative arms, gas block, adjustable gas block, or all the variety of charging handles that are out there, from gas stoppers to, ambi, left, right, even just how BCM, drops a Mark II upper receiver to get more rigidity within the footprint of a forged mil-spec upper receiver. There's so much innovation that goes in the space that most people, unless you're really paying attention, it's gonna miss most of you because you're not going to be, one, in the industry, or two, your local gun shops, they don't buy those things and they're not going to educate you on it. It's not in a buy group or some other distributor. But nonetheless, the R space needed innovation in 12 gauge and nobody was doing it. And I say nobody, it's not even to say that nobody couldn't have done it. It's not to say nobody can do it. What I'm saying is that we were the first to do it. And then we put some new benchmarks on there. So I'm going to share one of those with you guys.
Please.
So
I love show and tell.
Yeah. So this is one of my range guns. This thing, I had to rebuild the upper
range gun.
One time, I think this year, I think we had about 16,000 rounds on the upper. This is a machine gun, so it can go full auto. It's got a Huxworks Ventum 12K suppressor on it, and it's a 5-inch barrel.
Oh, wow. Lord.
This gun is 25 to 26 inches in this collapsed state. So with that little buttstock collapse, that's only 4 inches. But this whole thing is 26 inches.
Is that the one that, I hate to bring Micah up, but is that the one you were shooting at the range with Micah?
Yeah, it was.
That thing is so freaking little.
Nasty.
That is awesome.
It's crazy. And the things that blew us away was, that this shotgun here, which is the breacher, this one is, designed to be worn on the body through a QD point and slung and drawn up like a tool, just like you would with your Remington 870 MCS 3 shot. Well, this and this are only about 3 inches different in their overall length. I don't know if I'll be able to get it in a frame.
Wow,
literally, they're marginally different. So the suppressor creates a little bit longer. It's about 3 inches, but this also has a deployable stock. So then you can, it can be shoulder fired, and it's super comfortable. One of the nice things about our PDW style stock here is that you have the longer 308 receiver.
Yeah, so you can go
end
further.
up with a little bit more length of pull.
Yeah,
because those rods are a little bit longer. It locks in the close, locks in the open, and that was because this was designed to be fired outside of the shoulder. So if this thing had a rip deploy, what we found is you'd shoot the heavy loads of 12 gauge, and all of a sudden your stock would deploy. Well, if you wanted to stow it, or if that's how you were running it, that became one more step to getting it out of your way. So we just decided to leave it locked here. And it's not hard. You just give it a squeeze, and it deploys fairly easy. And closing, it's not cumbersome. It's pretty easy to do and efficient as long as you practice. But this has never been done before. 5-inch full auto, suppressed, around 700 to 800 rounds a minute, 26-inch overall length, and the recoil is completely insane. I did a demo at 15 yards. I loaded 10 rounds of slugs. And I said, do you think I can get them all in? And with a full auto burst, I did 10 rounds in a 10-inch circle at 15 yards.
That's awesome.
The answer was yes.
That's so cool.
That is a wall of lead.
Yeah. So, Cody, one thing I really appreciate from a tactical side of what you do is manual of arms. So, I'll be honest, I'm an AR guy. So, be able to pick up your weapon and have the same manual of arms I'm used to, because and it makes it fun. Because I'll be honest, when you give me a pump shotgun, they're fun for maybe a tuber or two, and then I'm done. I'm over it. And then also, I don't do it a lot. So every time I grab a shotgun, I'm always like, get my manual of arm. I don't want to look stupid, right? So I'm always like, make sure I got everything down. But this is like, you pick it up, it's going to feel natural. And that's what I appreciate it. And then also, it's a breacher tool, but from a tactical side, if I'm the breacher and something goes bad and I go in that room, I know I'm not the first in the room, I still have a weapon. It's not the ideal, but it still can do work.
100%.
And that's something that I really can appreciate. You have something going short, it's in a small room, and you can still do work with.
Yeah. So I'll use this as another example. This will be out 2025 for SHOT Show. It's just a stock version of our 5-inch suppressed.
Yeah.
This is a limited edition FDE can. I don't know if we'll still have them in stock at the time of this airing, but they are available through us, obviously. But this allows the option of shoulder firing a system and using a sighting system, so you can breach and deploy into the room. The reason that most of the time that's never been done before is ammo, because the ammo wouldn't allow you to do it. So I've tested breaching ammo out to 20 yards, 15 yards, and a lot of ammo that's the frangible munition designed to, and this is mostly for law enforcement use because of the high liability of penetrating a door and then having somebody get injured on the opposite side of that wasn't, even if it is the suspect, wasn't intended to be injured, whether it's a serious injury or a minor injury, it doesn't matter. That we want to minimize that liability to that as much as we can. So they use frangible material. What we found is, like, at 10 yards, I tried to shoot the frangible rounds into paper just to get a group, and I wasn't hitting the paper. It was just turning into a copper mist into the sky. And I was like, what? Not even 10 yards? Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, that frangible material. So, but there is ammo. We're testing, for example, the There's the federal contract ammo is made by Integral Hitch. They have a system that's usable.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hornady has what they said it was really, when I learned about it, I was still an officer, and we're still testing it with our system, trying to get, a lot of data over all the different barrel lengths. But they say that it can be frangible and then open air. Well, now that opens up what you're saying to where you can breach and utilize one system. 2 years ago, we did a demo for an agency in Washington State, and I showed them everything, and they told me they wanted to do a breaching system, and I was like, oh, they're going to go with this little guy, and they went with that. And I was like, why do you want that? And they said, well, we just want to breach the door and enter with that. And I was like, that's pretty radical. That's what I believe should be happening for TTPs.
I mean, it makes sense.
We had a conversation, and I ended up leaving that thinking to myself, what dictates our training tactics and procedures of how we think and perceive around a gun? And, if you go back to Magpul days with, Chris and Travis just wrecking the shotgun on video and everybody wanting to get their 870 tricked out or go buy their Seg at that time, the level of skill it takes to, like you said, thumb in those shells and run them out of your side saddle. But then if you run out of your side saddle, what do you need to have? A pocket full of ammo. So either a dump pouch, or you're going to pull them off one at a time off a shingle. So like you said, the manual of arms it doesn't make a lot of sense to use it as a primary system. Right. And that's just inherent with it. But when you can run a placard of magazines,
boom. Yep.
Now your reloads, I mean, I'll be honest, your reloads are within, 0.2 of what you would normally do with
it's muscle memory. It's the same muscle memory.
100%. The buttons are in the same spot. The bolt release is in the same spot. Your speed reloads, just the only thing that you have to train is your, felt recoil impulse. But even to that, you talk manual of arms. This one really surprised me. We're doing some distance shooting with the 5-inch suppressed. And so we zeroed the guy at 50 yards with slugs. And then we went out to 100, we shot. And when we walked up, we, saw our grouping, made our notes. And then I just got curious. I was like, what happens when I want to shoot the head box at 5 yards with that gun? At 0 to 50 yards. Like, what's my bore offset look like?
Yeah.
So I just held where I normally hold on the paper target with a 5.56. And when I pulled the trigger, the single slug went right into the eye box. And I was like, holy cow. So now my sight picture and my sight alignment and my reflex to dot to target is unchanged. So now not only do I have the same manual of arms, I have a similar feel both in the safety, the trigger, and what I see. The only change is what's being delivered from the muzzle, which is a 73 caliber slug in this case, which is about 456 grains. I don't care who or what.
If you're that first guy in the room and boom, I don't care what happens.
Knock them everybody down.
People are stopping.
Well, and you can run some insane splits. So, there's a really fun drill that we like to do on the range. We do this at our demos. So if anybody hasn't done the infamous 22422 drill from Travis Haley, you guys aren't living yet, because it is the best way to burn down ammo at a high rate of speed with your 223 or your 5.56. So you got 3 targets, you run 2, 2, 4, 2, 2, and you work your way back. Well, we started talking about, power factor and why do you need to fire multiple rounds into a target? And usually that comes down to the ability to stop a threat. Like in law enforcement, that's how we refer to it. We stop a threat. Well, how many 223 rounds does it take to stop a threat? And, out of all the campaigns from GWAT, with Afghanistan and Iraq, we found out in close proximity that it's more than 5. It's somewhere around 8 rounds. And so, and it could be a little bit more, it could be a little bit less, but 8's a pretty decent number. So 8 rounds is a lot of rounds. And so then you just need to think to yourself, how many people can I really stop that want to do harm to me or someone I love if I have to use 8 rounds on that one person?
I mean, that's 2.5 mags, basically.
Yeah.
It's a mag. It's 2.5 people per mag.
That's right. Now, I got a 10-round mag. Okay. And I'm shooting 456 grains.
You can stop 12.
Yeah.
How many of those do you need to stop a guy? Yeah, exactly. It's one, not 8 or 10. It's one. So how many people can I actually stop now
15.
with my magazine?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at your shotgun, and I'm looking at the drum mag, and I'm like, that's what happens when an AR platform and a street sweeper have a baby. Like but a street sweeper, people don't understand that that's only a 7-round mag capacity. How cool they are if you have one, like, cherish it. It's just cool factor.
Yep.
But you're getting double the mag capacity, but you're getting more options as far as maneuverability, tactical
100%.
accessories, all that. I mean, I was watching something with you and the GBRS guys. I mean, you put a Hydra mount on it. I mean, you're doing night vision stuff with a shotgun. Like,
That's so cool.
Who the hell does that? You guys.
Genesis Arms.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys. It's just weird, and I think it's funny that people will know who I'm talking about if you know who I'm talking about. But it's like, man, I look at your stuff like, I don't know, man. It'll take anything. I mean, it's like a Mia Khalifa or something.
You brought up the street sweeper, and you're right. The street sweeper unfortunately was declared a destructive device by the ATF, encroaching on our freedoms again. But what ultimately that it had no sporting purpose. It was a super heavy system. If I remember right, it was over 10 pounds, maybe 12-ish pounds or so. So imagine lugging that thing around. I think that was empty too, by the way. So you load up 1 ounce, seven slugs in there, and you're going to be feeling the weight of those things. As cool as it was, our system somewhere around 7.5 pounds. We're going to have a sporting purpose choke kit release next year. Right around the time that this is going to be airing, we're going to be announcing it at SHOT Show. That's going to allow people to put chokes even on a 5-inch barrel shotgun.
Wow.
So now you take a 5-inch barrel shotgun, and you're able to control the pattern. You might lose, powder burn and efficiencies, but it's not crazy. Like, I've done all the testing, done all the chronos. You'd be really surprised. The suppressor gives us about 60 feet per second versus unsuppressed. And it also keeps your brain from turning into a giant jello ball and just sloshing around inside your cranium, because shooting the 5-inch barrel unsuppressed is so concussive. It literally makes you feel loopy when you shoot it unsuppressed. And the great thing about the Huxworks suppressor is it reduces that pressure by 60%. So on the 5-inch, it's a must. That's why we sell the whole setup in that combo. It's 5-inch barrel and the suppressor. That's how you buy it. You can't buy it with just the 5-inch barrel. It would be a disservice to you and your longevity. You'll be drooling in your 80s.
Oh, I just want to get a black suit, get some dragon's breath, and I want to go clear a room with this thing. That's all I can think about. The room will burn down.
I was going to say, I can only imagine, because you guys have been to the house. Matt, while he was here, decided he wanted to build a full auto 7-inch 5.56. So we did that without any suppressor.
Oh, Mike is just so everyone knows, Mike is an SOT.
I didn't build anything.
Anyone listening?
But
okay.
That was the flame that came out of it unsuppressed. And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, what is the flame? You're not
unused
I get
energy.
It. It's concussive. Don't do it. Ear Pro, double ear pro, all that stuff. But like, I bet the flame off that thing right behind you is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty rowdy. But the suppressor does a great job. I mean, we did nighttime shooting, even with it being titanium, and it is a flow through. It sparked very little. It's got to be the plastic wadding and the different material of the matter leaving the wad, or the muzzle being lead or tungsten. Even the steel shot, all that stuff. It didn't look that bad, even under nods or via the camera. Just limited spark and a little bit of a flash from just the leftover powder burn. But guys are throwing the suppressors on 10-inch barreled guns, 7-inch barreled guns that we also make, and you still get that benefit of reduced recoil, a little bit increase of feet per second. And the other thing it kind of does is it acts like a choke, so some crazy things like on our 5-inch gun, That gun will pattern just like a Remington 870, 18-inch barrel.
So you mentioned you mentioned the suppressor. Did you guys notice when suppressor wait times dramatically reduced that the sale, you could not keep those guns in stocks? Let's be honest, a lot of guys would love this gun, but they're always looking at it like, oh, I don't want to wait 9 months for it. And that's totally tough. But I can imagine now it's like, can't keep in stock.
So we were very fortunate originally when we started the project with Huxworks. It was really just a professional can. It wasn't going to be for the public space. But we built the PDS. I mean, look at this thing. Look at that thing.
Sick.
Look at it. Right? We saw that. We put it on display, and dealers were like, I have to have it.
It's nasty.
So by the end of SHOT Show, Hux and us had come to an agreement that we could commercially sell them. And we finally got those out into the market. It was like August of this year. So it came a little later. But, I mean, to what you're saying, not only did suppressor lead times drop, but also SBS lead times.
That dual tech stamp. Whew.
So whether guys already had SBSs and they're adding it to it, or they get the combo, honestly, this is rapidly becoming one of our leading, like, best-selling guns next to our standard 10.5 non-NFA version. But the PDS is such a pleasure to shoot, super comfortable. You know, the shorter barrel, even though the barrel's reciprocating, it just feels insane. Like when everybody shoots our gun, I don't care what shotgun you shoot, our shotgun will feel incredible compared to it. You know, it's so much fun to shoot. So,
Cody,
but yeah.
So how did it seems that John Wick was kind of the big break for Genesis. That's when it seems that you caught like a lot of eyes in the market overnight. How do you know the conversation or the creation story of Genesis and Terran Tactical?
Okay, so I have a good friend. We were on the SWAT team together at the time, and I had been out to, you know, there was a hotel in town that was getting demolished, and so I brought in our breacher for what we had built, what Genesis had built for the UK Ministry of Defense, which is this little tiny 7-inch barrel shotgun with a PDW style stock, and we were breaching doors and just getting some reps with it. So that buddy of mine, his neighbor is one of the engineers for BCM, and he wanted to see our shotgun after my buddy and him were talking. So I went over to my buddy's place. His neighbor came over. I demoed the gun, and he goes, "This thing's awesome." And we had the 10.5-inch out, and we had an oscillating random throwing clay pigeon bird thing. So they were just throwing them out, and we're shooting clays out with a 10.5-inch gun. It was so much fun. And so the gentleman said, would you be interested if I made an introduction to Terran? They're looking for an alternative in the movie for a possible alternative to the shotgun. And I said, okay, I'm interested. So of course I played it down, but inside I'm like super ecstatic.
Yes.
And then it all started from there. So we put in touch with Terran, and they went through a couple prop directors during the COVID time, but ultimately Rock Galati ended up becoming the prop director for that film. And I just remember getting the phone call from him talking about how freaking awesome our shotgun was on set. You know, he was complaining about all the other guns. You know, prop guns are super finicky because they're not real guns.
Yeah.
They had to use like way underpowered blanks, and they have stops in the barrel to stop anything from coming out. You know, we had to build a custom gun that ran on their custom blanks that we couldn't test in our facility because they're proprietary and only the prop house has them. And so that was a mess. You know, they were having issues with it cycling at their facility. So our head engineer went down to their facility. He fixed the problem, came back. We made modifications on the guns that we had here and got him a bunch of magazines and shipped everything out. So, you know, there was a lot of little challenges that happened in there. But when I got the phone call from Rock, he was in, I think it was Germany at the time. I remember I looked at my phone. I was like, Germany? We weren't doing any international stuff at the time. I was like, what the heck? So I answered the phone. And he's like, it's Rock. You won't believe it. He starts cursing in his excitement. You shot 300 rounds. this thing hasn't malfunctioned once. It's just like the real gun. So
That's
he's like,
so
Keanu's
cool.
loving it. It's killing it. So he said that they filmed that top-down view and John Wick 4. Basically, they did like one. It had to start in the beginning. They take it all in one take, and they, I think, I'm pretty sure they did a couple takes of that. But he said that the gun, if it jams at all during a one-take scene, that whole scene was scrapped. So they were able to do that over and over and over with our gun. And so that's the origin story. It was a buddy of mine, and that through divine intervention got us all
Small
looped
world,
together,
man.
and the hard work of the team. Yeah. The hard work of our team to make sure that we're able to execute. And another thing is, you're right. It was a big deal for us. If I could tell you, we were probably in like probably 75 square foot office. Like we were in a room upstairs in a manufacturing facility that's what we rented at the time. And so we dumped everything we could into that. We knew that it would pay dividends. But it took several years. And so in those years, we built our base. We were going after the professional shotgun. We wanted the credibility of being America's shotgun and the most reliable and best performing magnetic shotgun on the planet. And so to do that, we were doing lots of R&D, tons of rounds. I mean, I probably have shot literally a million rounds at this point. And that's by myself. I know Theodore, he's shot that or is exceeding that now at this point. He can actually shoot the gun and tell what's wrong with it if there's an issue, or like early on when we were testing things, he could shoot it and be like, oh, why did I do that? And then he'd shoot it again, and then he'd go do this, come back, and it stopped doing it. And I was like, how did you know? He's like, I could feel it. So it was pretty wild to watch. But so once we got in the movie, Taron, he wanted it to look a certain way, so we really talked about how he wanted aesthetically. That's how we settled on what we got with Keymod, the left right, the flared magwell, kind of competition / combat combination. And so it was great working with him and his team as well, just going back and forth. And then obviously he's a talented shooter, so it's crazy to see him just shred on his range with our little dragon breath there.
I noticed that. Why did he decide Keymod and not M-LOK? Was there a certain reason with that platform?
So there's a couple reasons. I can actually show you on this one. So one of the things on our barrel that you don't see in the M-LOK, you see that back in there? There's see that spring?
Yeah.
Right there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a weight. Now when the barrel moves, the weight is acting as a buffer. So Keymod, the way that Keymod mounts is that it pulls the mounting hardware down. It doesn't run a screw through a wing nut.
Right.
So on our other guns, you'll notice that we have to block in those M-LOKs
to protect it.
That weight.
Gotcha.
So one of my biggest complaints on our 10.5 was where you put your hand is right here. So this is where you'd want your hand stopped. Well, the Keymod allowed us to do it. Also, when we decided to do Keymod, there really hadn't been that big transition. It was right in that literally the 2 years that we had made the decision of what we're doing, got prop guns, all the stuff built, invested the money, and started the production of what this was going to look like. Keymod really, that's when you saw a rapid decline in Keymod 1 accessories. People started discontinuing it and just went to M-LOK. So, it was just a timing thing. But I personally, it feels great in the hand. There's no real, detriment. BCM offers all the Keymod accessories that a guy could ever want on the planet. And arguably, they're probably some of the better mounting, better feeling. That's why we use BCM. Look, we got BCM grip on it. We got a BCM SOP mod. This is their unibody. When we went with this, it wasn't even released yet. So we got this, ahead of the commercial market. It was originally released on our gun first. And then we got Kickies. They built this nice thick recoil pad, and man, this thing just feels so good. I feel so naked without my EOTech on here.
Yeah, that thing.
I got a question. So I'm looking at all of your offerings, and I understand recoil is an actual thing. But for those that aren't suppressed, why is there not I guess lack of better terms, a braced version? Or are you finding a way to do AOW? Like, Is there an offering that is not SBR?
Yeah, so that is a great question. So if you go on our website, the 10.5 inch, there's a 10.5 inch on the website. It features it with just a round buffer tube. It's a non-NFA item. It's considered an other firearm. The ATF created a new category, a term, which is not under the GCA or the NFA, which they call, and many people use today, but again, it's not the legal term, but they call it a pistol grip firearm.
POW.
Yep, a PGF, right? So those are not, that's just a made up term, like assault weapon or whatever other thing they want to make up. So
right.
We follow under the other firearm classification. So prior to all the insane attacks that came under the brace and kind of took some time for all the stuff to go into effect with the stays and stuff that are in effect now. As a company, we were selling it with a brace. We used to put an SBA 3 on it. That was standard on our other. That we're leaving that election up to a consumer at this point. So
nice,
perfect.
I think there might be some talk. We don't know where the legislation is going to land first part of the year. Hopefully, we get some movement on it. So maybe by the time this comes out, we probably be shipping with those already on it if we get to do that option. But as an end user, you need to know your own laws. But technically, the classification of another firearm is less than 18-inch barrel, greater than 26 inches in overall length, does not have a stock, and our other firearm meets all of those requirements. So Take that with what you may.
So, Cody, you guys also have another firearm that you guys, and I can kind of see the buttstock of it, I think, in your picture. You have a less than lethal option as well, correct?
When you want to hurt.
Yeah, I do. Can I grab? Let me grab it.
Yeah. We can touch. We can do whatever.
We can grab anything.
I mean, if you're close enough, you can shoot at them. We're cool with it.
So, we built the world's first semi-auto, less lethal shotgun. So this is built on a 10.5-inch platform. It is considered a SBS. This one, we got it outfitted with a aim point. It's their H2 series. Mm-hmm. And then we put the sweet little light up on top here. So you got this 12 o'clock ambidextrous feel to it, right? Nice. So you can be left-handed, right-handed. But it's a light laser combo. So there's a little switch on the side over here. So you just go up and down to toggle it. And this thing is awesome.
That'll rip beanbags as fast as you can pull it.
Yeah, so you're like, hey, I'm going to get after it. You load up your 15-round drum. And now you got 15 rounds of less lethal munitions. I refer to a character that I made up for less lethal. I call him the Juggernaut. Just let you imagine with me, 15-round drum, placard, magazines, 2 on the waist. I figured it out. I think it's like 80. It was 15, 50s. It was like 75 rounds is what you could comfortably carry on you in a single person. Well, then you take a backpack and you load it with the same loadout on your back. And so you get 2, imagine like 3 of these juggernauts standing there in the line, the shield wall, Antifa's is standing out there and thinking that they're right. And so then you get to do as a law enforcement officer what you do to preserve peace and create order again and stop the rioting. And start to detain people and put order back from chaos, you start to deploy beanbags. Now, traditionally, how less lethal has been deployed, it's a rate of fire thing, right? So It's a 40 millimeter. You have 6 rounds on a multi-launcher. Yep. So 6 rounds is not 15. 15 is way more. So you're literally double the capacity plus, right? Plus the rate of fire at which we can fire is as fast as you can pull the trigger. Those big, heavy multi-launchers that shoot 40 millimeter, they're pretty effective on impact. But again, how do you, like the legacy shotgun shell, tube guns, how do you manage that ammo? You're going to have to breach this thing open, 1, 2, 3. It's going to take time to load that up. Where a system like this, as I drop the drum, load the mag, and I'm right back on the system, you're talking 2 seconds, okay? 2.5 seconds, you're back on the thing.
Wow.
You have multiple threats available. You can disperse rounds against multiple targets very efficiently and effectively. I think you put 3 guys online with a second layer behind them. We're talking, 75 rounds a guy. He's got 100 and, what is that? 150 rounds per person. And I guarantee you could disperse that amount of ammo. I would
That's
say
why
in
you've
about
never
4
seen
minutes.
Riot recording in Idaho.
I have to ask. So because we're all dudes, and I already know if you give me one of those in a room with Mike and Matt, we're all gonna look at
Nope.
each other like, all right, who's going first, boys?
I'm
Like,
going home.
Have you tested it out? Have you been shot with it?
No.
Okay.
No.
This
No.
isn't Jackass.
I'll be honest, the beanbag, it's pretty rowdy. It is leaving the muzzle about 300 feet per second.
Oh yeah.
I think it's about 300 and something grains, so it's up there where a regular slug's 458. It's not quite that heavy, but it's still pretty heavy.
You could break the skin easy.
You can cause injury, right? Like it's if you shoot too close, you can what they call a penetrating trauma. So you could break the surface. It could embed into the person. This is why they want standoff distance.
Less than lethal, not harmless. Yeah,
it's less than lethal, exactly. However, to the benefit of the system, as an officer, the 870s, they're deployable, but we would have pump guns with 12 gauge in it, but you don't have a flashlight on it. Most of them didn't have a sling. Most of them, didn't have an optic. So, your accuracy level, your ability to run the gun, and then a lot of them didn't even have extended tubes for more ammunition. So it was just setting everybody up for less and less and less. And even in again, I had a buddy, we're in North Idaho, so a buddy over at Spokane PD. He ran an 870 during the Antifa riots at their agency. He ran 136 rounds through the whole night on a pump gun.
That's working.
You could do that in less than 10 minutes with our system. And again, you just really affect people's enthusiasm to do wrong when you can do that. But to answer your question a little more on some of the efficacy of the projectile is we had an international customer come over for their prisons. They were looking at this specific system, and we did gel testing. So this was an eye-opening experience for me because I had never done gel testing on less than lethal ammo. And thinking to myself the whole time, I'm looking at it like, why haven't I ever thought of doing that? I would shoot bullets into glass to see what happens. I'll shoot bullets into... But what does the gel tell me about the beanbag? So we chronoed it. We did point blank, 1 meter and 3 meter. And then we did 5, and I think it was 15. I don't remember all the stats. I'd have to go dig that out of my computer somewhere. But what blew me away was at point blank range, where we put the muzzle on the gel block, the beanbag penetrated 3¼ inches. Now, why is that significant? Because
just like Adam.
Winning. Get it, Adam. So why is that significant? It's because 3 inches, the first 3 inches of gel is equivalent to the penetration of skin. Mm-hmm. So after 3 inches, you have a penetrating trauma. So then when we went to 1 meter, 3 feet away, it went 2.75. Now I'll tell you, it may not penetrate the skin, but it's gonna put a mark, and it's gonna break a ring of the skin, like it's gonna break that tensile strength of the skin, and it's gonna go black and blue everywhere else, right? So it's gonna be
just the concussiveness on that thing.
We need to do something at SHOT Show. We need to have like almost pink slips. Like who's going to take a shot? Who's going to take a shot in the ass cheek with one of these things?
I'm
Like
not
in
part of
what
that.
distance?
We need to work this out. The drag stabilized sticking out of his jeans.
Horrible.
No.
I mean, depending on what's on the table, I mean, you can shoot me an ass cheek. I'll take it. Whatever.
With penicillin, man.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, that's cool too. And then also, it's a intimidation factor. The fact that this does, from a rioting standpoint, this looks like an AR-15. This looks like a rifle to people. Yeah. And, I think there's an intimidation factor there too when you see those as well. So I think that's cool. Is it all orange, or do you guys make them in other colors as well for the less lethal?
For anything, most of our catering is for law enforcement. You want to, because it can accept lethal rounds, that's a danger, obviously. Yeah. So we want to mark it clearly orange. We have a marking on this receiver over here, and it clearly states that it's less lethal munitions only. So we don't want people to put lethal rounds in it, so we're trying to avoid it. Most agencies have good protocols to prevent that. But one more thing I'll talk about with this real quick, and having been an officer and using 870s and less lethal, I personally would do it, but I didn't really like doing it because, there's always an opportunity for a situation with a convicted person to go all the way. Right. And we as individuals, even as armed citizens and just you going through your daily life, we assume most people are just going to follow the law and they're not going to go all the way. They're not going to go full retard. They're not going to go full crazy. And they're going to just follow the line and they're going to stay within these left-right parameters that we all function within. Even when we get mad and we say sarcastic things like, oh, I hate this, I hate that, that guy's an idiot. We still don't go out and just start beating that guy's face in because we don't like it. Right.
Yeah.
For the most part, we can have disdain, but we have control. Well, in law enforcement, it's a reactive role. So, as an officer, I could be trying to effect an arrest, to take somebody into custody without having to kill them or permanently stop them. And so with this system, that gives the opportunity for that to be done a little more efficiently and also to the confidence of the person using it, right? We want law officers to use less lethal munitions when they can. So whether that's a taser, a canine, OC, chemical munitions, and beanbag. And this affords them the opportunity to do that because one of the things that always is in the back of your mind, I have 4 kids and I have a wife and I used to work graveyard mostly. Out of my 9 years, I think I ran 7 years on graveyard. And there's always an opportunity, for somebody to be concealed with a weapon and to get a head start on you and take you, potentially to the hospital. But we always want to be best prepared as possible. And one of those things is, how do you handle a lethal threat when you're equipped with a less lethal tool? Well, obviously, most of the time, guys are going to have a buddy to their left or their right to be that lethal option. Yeah. So what is your option, though? Well, you have an 870. You have an option of shooting the person anywhere you want because it's lethal, so you can shoot to the face, but you have stupid iron sights, right? You don't have a sling. This is literally speaking from my own experience. You don't have a sling. You have iron sights. So you'll do your best to shoot him in the face, but hopefully, your iron sights were properly aligned. And how often did I ever train that? Yeah. Never, right? With an 870 beanbag, never did it. Didn't really even understand what the drop would look like with the beanbag just because beanbags, we didn't have a bunch of rounds for training either. So what does that look like, right? Well, I will tell you this. When I got 15 rounds, 10 rounds, 5 rounds, and I deployed 2 to the guy and he's now coming at me, all I have to do is rise up and as fast as I can pull the trigger, 3, 4, 5,
zipper
6,
up.
8, 9, 10. Yeah. Tell you what, 2, 3 rounds to the forehead. That guy's going to be either disoriented or he's going to be thinking he got the back of his brain tickled by a sock. So
freaking
so it gives the confidence if someone's going to do harm to you that you get to, unfortunately have to stop somebody permanently. Yeah. But at the same time, you get to go back to your family. You protect the people to your left and your right, and that person obviously made a poor choice. But it gives us a confidence as an end user to use the tool, which is what we want. We don't want officers to leave it in their car. We want them to be comfortable taking it and know how to use it properly, and that will be better for our public and make a safer public because they can effect an arrest without having to use deadly force. Because they have tools to do such.
Some people are having a bad day, man, and we all make horrible mistakes. And sometimes people lose their life, and maybe it wasn't necessary. But like you caused somebody who was holding a firearm 100%. To fear for their life, and I think a shotgun beanbag is still a pretty serious weapon, but it still has a line. Most of the time, this is not going to kill you, but it's a serious physical consequence still, but one that you might live through.
Yeah. Again, I think, I would hope, again, our public, with all the controversy out of, the Antifa, the riots, with, the case with Chauvin and, Floyd and all that stuff. It's just that all created a big, in my opinion, a gut wrenching reversal in law enforcement to want to do their job. We don't go out. The majority of officers are good people. They don't go out to look and do harm against another person. But you have to have a thin veneer of people in this society willing to do it, and to give their life for you, and they don't even know you. And then in return, whether it was, I believe it was, excited delirium or some type of drug induced thing, which obviously that's what's happened. Drugs were a huge factor in that case. Ultimately it wasn't the fault of the officer. It was the personal life choices over years and years of abuse. And then the current abuse of drugs and substance, which created a cardiac situation. But we need to build the confidence in our officers again, that they can use tools, and we'll support them in doing that. So we have, not to use the slogan, but to make America great again. I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
On that note, I mean, we're making shotguns
Let's go,
great again,
dude.
guys. So
You are.
So I do want to say, because I don't want to date us, but I do want to say that you have been nominated for a Gundy this year, but that's not the first time. You were nominated last year. And what I see is a pattern, and it's real easy to kind of look at it and think about, like, man, you've got some of the bigger firearms companies in the industry that make more than just shotguns. And some of those guys aren't up for, innovative brand of the year or even being acknowledged for it. And on the surface, when you scratch it, you look at it and you're like, man, how can you be innovative? It's a shotgun, big deal. I mean, it's a shell, it's a wad, it's a primer, it's some powder, it's a load, whatever. But you guys 2 years running have, been, I guess, just noticed for the innovation. And I think that win, lose, draw, that's worth talking about. And how, I'm dumbing it way down, but just bare bones, like, man, we're just talking about shotguns here. But you've been notified for innovating 2 times in a row. That's huge.
Yeah, it was a big deal. I mean, it was a nice surprise when we got, and we won, right? So we got nominated. When we got nominated with Terran Tactical as a collab brand for the John Wick 4, or it's not the John Wick 4. It's technically called the TTI JW4 Gen 12 Dracarys, because it's got the fireball blown out, just like in Games of Thrones, right? Yeah. And actually on the safety selector, when you flip it down off of fire, it actually says Dracarys in the fire position.
Yeah. That's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, getting that nomination, we owe a lot of that momentum that we got, obviously, from the movie, but also, Terran, his team, helped drive that traffic. And it was a huge honor. We're super humbled by the opportunity to be nominated and then get awarded for that collab firearm together. This year, I was really optimistic and I was really hopeful that we would get most innovative brand. When we stepped into SHOT Show 2024, the beginning of this year, we announced our PDS. We also announced this weapon system, and the breaching shotgun had just recently been awarded a federal contract. So,
wow.
And we pushed Huxworks. They were going down this direction, but we helped push this into a reality because there was no shotgun worth suppressing. Why would you suppress an 18-inch barrel? It just doesn't make sense. So I could have a 26-inch barrel.
Right.
Why? Now it's even less usable.
5-foot shotgun.
So we listen, we're going to make shotguns great again, and we're going to make shotguns innovative. What do people want? Well, what are the problems? You've already talked about them, Adam. We got manual of arms. Okay. Yeah. You got a ton of proficiencies that you got to stay up on. And I'll tell you what, you're not going to be quad loading your stuff under night vision.
Nope.
Okay?
You're not Gary Mikulek.
Just like so many people in the firearms industry stayed away from firearms for so long, but then they got to shoot an AR-15 and they quickly adopted becoming a gun owner. I'm super excited about that. Why? Because people who aren't shotgun people shoot our gun for that same reason. Now, listen, I'm not going after diehard guys with Benellis and Berettas and duck hunting. I get it. You guys, you have your thing. I love you. You go do that. But when it comes to overall performance and usability in all of those ways, that I can go use this to hunt ducks, right? I just have to put my limiter in it, you know, and I need to choke my 5-inch. The suppressed ain't going to quite get me what I need. But, you know, that's why we got our sporting purpose choke kit up here on this
We
guy right
need
here.
this
You know,
so
put that on a
badly.
10.5,
Yeah.
totally could do it, right?
I
But
need
then
this
I
on
can
the
also
outdoor
take my
channel.
choke kit off, put my suppressor back on, my red dot's still zeroed, and I can lay it next to my bed with a 15-round drum. And I don't need to take my once-in-a-lifetime gun I take out once a year to go shoot 3-4 rounds for ducks. I can leave it and play with it anytime I want because it can do everything. You know, it's just it's a versatile tool, and it is innovative, and we're super humbled to be nominated again. And I hope people go out and vote. You know, so if you're watching this, there's still time. You got to go vote. Hopefully, there's still time, but you got to vote. And then also we had 2 other videos. So we had content creators of the year. So we had, or was it emerging content creators? I'm not sure. Or best video. That's what it was. Best video.
Yeah.
You
Best
got
video.
Josh at 1156.
That's the homie.
Yeah. No, yeah. So Josh and I.
1156. Yep.
Yeah. 1156 Productions. Yeah. Josh was awesome. So he got nominated for a video he did where it was a collab feature with Ronin Tactics, and us in the video, and we filmed that on set with Holosun during the whole time he was getting his pistol release and the new rifle release with Agency Arms, getting all that stuff kind of put together. He's like, hey, let's do something. So we put together that little video, and man, it was just awesome. So that video got nominated, and then we have another one that we made, which was a counter drone video, and it's a YouTube short. And I think by the time we get to SHOT Show, it's going to be 33 million views.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was watching that thing take off. I knew it would do well. I didn't know I was going to get 250,000 views a week.
That's awesome.
You know how many views Matt's mom would have to watch that thing for us to have 33 million views?
Cody, I have to ask this question before Matt asks his question that we didn't set you up for. We ask everyone. But before that, you are, because you were a Marine. You're always a Marine. So Army guy over here, but I love my Marines. We ask every Marine, what is your favorite flavor crayon?
Oh my goodness. You know, maybe I just had too much, brain damage or TBI or something. But when I was in, I don't remember this whole crown eating thing. So, but maybe I just missed it.
You missed out on all the good ones.
Oh man, you missed it out.
I would get down on the charms. Listen, they'd be like, "Don't eat the charms," and I was like, "I'm eating the charms, dude. I just can't help myself." You're gonna make it great.
Question. I was going to say I have a question. It's more also going to be a great realty for us to promote this thing.
Okay.
I'm not going to say any brands, so we'll start it here. You got a lot of AR platform, AK platform, rifle style platform shotguns. If I'm in the market for a tactical shotgun, we're also going to include, the Berettas and the Benellis. Why Genesis Arms?
It's a great question. We make shotguns great again, and we are America's shotgun. What that means is we are 100% sourced in America. Absolutely. We make it. Most of our vendors are local to us. We're not buying 80% stuff out of Turkey and importing that in and then calling it American made. When we buy raw materials, obviously we're buying from an American company. I can't guarantee that where they're getting it from, but honestly, everything from that point forward, it's American workers. We're not outsourcing our IP outside of our country. We're holding that stuff. Obviously, it's ITAR regulated and controlled. And we're a small business. We set out with an idea and a dream. The original founders. As I stumble over my words.
Founding
Theodore, the head engineer and the principal founder that's still with us today, he is a Romanian immigrant. So we're talking a guy who was raised under communism in Romania, and his family had to flee that to come to the United States. That drive to be able to innovate and to make something better is what drove him to be this, to create the Gen 12. And, the Lord, God, put all of us together, him, me, our CFO, the other members of the company here, we all came together, and I'll be honest, we're super blessed to be a small team and to produce such an incredible tool. And we want to push that out to everybody. And we aren't going to accept, mediocre performance. We're not going to rest on our laurels. We're always innovating. We're always pushing the outer limits. We even have, crazy stuff outside the shotgun space that's been innovated on. And, I hope someday that stuff gets to make it to the market space. But right now, this is where we are, and it's what we're leading in. And I challenge any shotgun company out there to come even close to what we're doing. You're not going to get 700, 800 rounds a minute out of a mag fed, out of your Benelli or your tube fed shotguns. It just isn't going to happen. We'll beat everybody in performance, in longevity. We use a lot of tool steel. We use metallurgy that's common in the market space. But we take our stuff very serious. Additionally, our warranty, it's published as a 1-year limited warranty. Truthfully, for a long time, it's been that way. We're going to be revamping that here going into 2025 because it's not what we've practiced. We take a lifetime warranty to our system. Like I said, we guarantee the performance of our system. If you get a gun and you have something that you learn and it's causing you a headache for whatever reason, and I've taken guns back and they run perfectly fine, and I make a video and I send it back to the person. I'm like, hey, this is me shooting your gun. I can't duplicate what you have. I don't know how to help you, but I'm sending it back to you. Or in some of those cases, we still get it and we inspect it. We can't duplicate it. We'll just give them a brand new upper on their lower, and we'll send it right back to them. And there's no fee for that. We don't charge anybody for that type of stuff. So our RMA is no questions, or our warranty is no questions. We take care of our customers. We guarantee the performance. So you're not going to get that with your Turkish shotguns. You're not going to get spare parts. You're not going to get the warranties. You're just not going to get the quality of the service. We understand it's an expensive product, but our dollar is being inflated to an nth degree. And if I could make it less expensive in America, then we would do that. But at the moment, this is the best that we can do, and you're going to buy something that you can stand by. It's also something that, like I said, God forbid you have to use it to protect your house, your family, or a loved one. But if you do, you can rest assured in confidence that this system, the Gen 12, is going to do exactly what you want it to do, and that is stop whatever's coming through the door or anything else that needs to stop. So, that's our testament. That's our convictions. That's why we do what we do.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Dude, you should have led with
We're
that.
going to cut that out and put it at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, you said you don't do that. No.
All that editing
lied.
stuff we said, we lied. We're
Chop
putting
and
that
screw.
at the beginning.
All right, Cody, we made it to that part of the show, brother. If you've watched Whiskey and Windage, you might have an idea. Not our idea, of course. We stole it from someone else, but it's a lot of fun. We as gun guys or gun people secretly kind of judge each other, even just a little bit, based on what type of guns that you like. So, as Cody the gun guy, not as Cody of Genesis, you get 5 guns for the rest of your life. It's not like the zombie apocalypse or World War III or anything, but 5 guns for the rest of your life. You can only have 5, but NFA doesn't matter. Cost of ammo doesn't matter. What 5 guns are you taking?
Well, that's an interesting selection, isn't it? Well, I mean, I'm going to have to start just out of necessity. You got to have a Barrett.
That's a common one. Yep.
You got to have it.
Everybody needs a Barrett 50.
You got to
That's
be
the Marine. That's the Marine in him.
That's the Marine in him.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a Barrett 50 for that pesky raccoon in your trash can.
Yeah. I remember when they took us out in Fallujah and they're like, hey, we need to get acquainted with the system. And so there's some truck out at like 800 meters. And so me and the other guys are standing marksman style with this Barrett 50 cal trying to shoot. We got it. It's fine.
Nice.
So I would start with that. Number one. Another gun that I became very fond of, you got to have some type of sniper capability. It might be a little heavy. It might be a little fat, but I'm going to tell you, this thing is a nail driver, Accuracy International. So my professional tool was 308 AT.
Okay.
Suppressed, knife for scope. I mean, if I had something like that, I'd be perfectly okay. I could cause some disruption for sure. 0 to 1,000 yards, premium okay. And if it could be short barrel, even better, right? Maybe an 8.6 barrel conversion in there. I don't know.
Ooh, good choice.
All right, so I'd say the AI. You know, I'm a big Glock fan. I love it, but you know, since this is a fantasy world, and literally I carry Glock every day, and I think I own every Glock. It's an agency Glock that you know, I prefer. I run a Glock 45, the Sage Edition. I ran a Glock 17 agency arms full mod for a long time, but so I might even need one of those. We'll see if it makes it to number 5. But if you haven't shot the Archon Type B, you are missing out, and it is so enjoyable and so much fun to shoot. Mm-hmm. It's as reliable as my Glock. It's got Beretta style mags. They're steel. I love the gun. Plus, it's modular grip, so it can be cut down to a compact grip, so it's easier for concealment. Or you can run the full size and get that nice feel. So, Archon Type B. So I got my 3.
There you go.
You know, and I didn't even. I'm going to go now. I'm kind of going in my orders here, right? So I would definitely. I'd have to have my Gen 12 PDS back here.
I mean, you have to.
I would. I mean, I would do some crazy stuff, like maybe something like this. I'd run a TACOM prism thing on the front, either maybe a T2, but man, it comes with an aim point, or sorry, an EXPS 3-1. Hands down, the crispiest 1-dot you can get is the EOTech. So I'd run the EOTech with this TACOM HQ in front. Now, why this? I'm going to tell you why. Because this is something we've been experimenting with. This is 25 minutes of automatic adjustment.
Really?
So you go 0 to 100 slugs, right? 0 to 100 for slugs, 100 to 200.
Wow.
So now my little 5-inch boy right there, I can smack something at 200 yards.
Huh.
Ooh.
So that's what I would be doing. And it's suppressed and a light, so all the good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so what's that? I got my Barrett 50 cal for anti-everything. I got my sniper rifle, a little bit of nostalgia, plus it's just such a cool gun. Number 3, I got my Archon, I got my backup, I got my shotty.
Yep.
Now I need to pick. I'm going to pick an AR-15. Now this one, listen, I'm not going to go Gucci on this, right? Knight's Armament, you're trash. LMT, I don't mean that really. I'm not trash. I mean, obviously you're a great rifle.
Dude.
I'm not saying that to be insulting. Yeah, I would love to take a Knights. I've never really got to even play with one. LMT, yeah, you're cool too, but you know what? Everything I rely on is a BCM. I have run my BCM. I've run 11 and a half all day, 11 and a half, 12 and a half.
All day.
100%. And I throw myself a little Huxworks flow on the front and get after it.
Plug.
My 11 and a half, I mean, I got some ammo from a company called G9. It's a 54 grain solid copper projectile. It is insane. Shooting it, both my buddy and I, when we were up at his range with Veritech, we were shooting 100 yards. We both printed a minute of angle at 100 yards with just an EOTech, no magnification.
Nice.
And patterned it out to 300.
I like 11.5.
Get out. Thing's awesome.
I mean, you covered all bases. You got everything. You got long range, short range, pistol. You can do some damage, suppressive fire, and you got a shotty. You got them all.
Yeah. Do I get one more? Is that all 5?
That's all 5.
I was going to say, you know, he picks, you know, most people either hate shotguns or most people hate long range, and most people safe bet go machine gun, but he's got a full automatic.
Yeah.
He's got a full automatic shotgun.
Yeah, I mean, you got it.
Shotgun, and he knocks machine gun out in the same pick. Like,
great picks.
It's a really good one.
That's awesome. Well, Cody, before we get out of here, where can they find Genesis Arms? Where can they find you? Give us the plug.
Yeah, let's do it. GenesisArms.com. Listen, I don't care what type of world we live in. I'm hoping that we'll always have the World Wide Web, so you can find us there. Just type it in, GenesisArms.com. You know, the home of the Gen 12. We're also on Instagram. It's also under Genesis Arms. We're on YouTube. It's also under Genesis Arms. If you want to follow me and my boring life, you know, really what my page is just a backup to Genesis Arms to give somebody, you know, we'll post up background stuff, you know, behind the scenes. Like I was just with Savior Equipment.
Nice.
You know, they make our bags. And so we were with them doing a video promoting our bag, and they're the manufacturer of it. So we just did a little range time with them. So I got to post that up on my page, which is Cody Cohen Actual. I think there's an underscore in there somewhere, but yeah, you can find me there. Try to get back to you guys as much as we can. But if you want direct contact with us, even on our website, we got a phone number. And man, I got to tell you, That is a risky business. There's a lot of people wanting to talk to us, and
do you know
gonna-
Terran Tactical?
Look.
No.
yeah, we're gonna have to get more customer service reps.
I
if
can
guys
tell
keep
you
calling
that
like you are.
calling the phone number
Awesome.
works. Somebody answers the phone. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, Matt did it.
I was like, hey guys. They're like, yeah, I'll take the message, no problem.
Hey guys.
Hey guys, you want to come on a podcast? Well, Cody, we appreciate you. We appreciate Genesis Arms. We're excited to see you at SHOT Show.
Yes.
And maybe some other spots around Vegas on Monday evening, possibly. So you're always welcome back to the show. You're definitely a friend of the show. Guys, if you made it to the end, make sure you are like, subscribe, leave that notification bell, leave a comment, and let us know what Genesis Arms should come out next. What should be their next build? Give us some crazy ideas you have, but leave a comment for us, and we'll get back to Cody on them. And by the way, if you are watching on YouTube, go over to Rumble, hit over that subscribe, guys. We appreciate it. Like I always say, stay dangerous, carry a weapon. We'll talk to you soon.